Abu Dhabi is quiet. There's a lot of opportunities there. I mean, the main reason I do want to be there is because I can see how much we're needed there.
Yeah.
And I think if you see that there's a lot of recruitment there, it also means for the economy generally that it is doing well. There is a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities.
Thank you for listening to the podcast thus far. 2024, big year ahead. The one favor I would ask, if you're enjoying what you're listening to, is to press the follow and subscribe button on whatever media platform you listen to us, as it helps us grow our network and grow the podcast. So thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Alchemy Search, Finance and Tax Insights. I'm Conor McHugh, the founder of Alchemy Search. And today I'm joined by Weam Kamel. So I'm going to go a bit off script here because I just want to make a public apology to Weam in person, as we did a podcast last week and I didn't reference that we have an Arab in our team. So I upset Weam dearly. So I just want to start off by making my apology public to the 24 followers we have for this podcast. So I'm sorry, Weam.
You're forgiven.
Thank you. So look, today we're going to have a bit of a fun episode. Weam and I are going to have a good chat. Weam is going to give a lot of insight into the Abu Dhabi market. As Alchemy as a business, we turned 3 years 2 weeks ago, which is super exciting. And we've seen a big change from our shift where, I'd say in year 1, year 2, maybe 80% of our work was Dubai. Well, now, that's sort of flipping a bit to Abu Dhabi, and Weam is spearheading that for us as a business, and she's hoping to hopefully relocate there so she gets out of my way, which would be nice for my stress and pain levels if we get rid of her down to Abu Dhabi. But that's a separate story.
Not that much of a headache.
No, you're not that, but you have your moments, as we all do. But yeah, look, Weam, I guess the points I have here is, Abu Dhabi and Dubai offer unique landscapes for professionals, while Dubai's fast-paced, cosmopolitan environment attracts many job seekers. Abu Dhabi needs more strategic plan of action. So we're going to dive into the key differences in both cities, mainly for our listeners that are not in the region, who are looking to come into the region because, with Alchemy in particular, we're going to have opportunities in Abu Dhabi and also in Dubai. And the way I see things is that the more the time goes on, we're probably going to have more and more opportunities in Abu Dhabi. So yeah, quite keen to get your perspective, and if you're happy to share your journey with Abu Dhabi, how it differs from your expectations, because I remember probably only 12 or 9 months ago you were sort of planning on packing it in with Abu Dhabi, that you weren't getting your return from the amount of effort you were putting there. But thankfully for you, me and Alchemy, that's flipped. So quite keen to get some stats from your end on everything Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it was tough. I think it was 6 months in, I wanted to just give it up. It's a tough market. It's not an easy market. I mean, even I was born there, and it was still quite tough even for me, even though I understand Abu Dhabi, but it changed so much in the last 10 years, I would say, and more so in the last 5 years. So yeah, it has been pretty tough, but thankfully, once you get your momentum going, I think, it's like a domino effect in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot tougher than I thought, but once we got going, we really got going. So just some stats, yeah.
Yeah, get the stats out. Thank you, Denise, for the stats.
Yeah, I know you like numbers.
Yeah, I love numbers.
So 2023, out of all the jobs that we had at Alchemy, 4.6% were Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
This year it's 16.5.
Okay.
So quite a big difference there.
400%. Good.
Revenue-wise, 2023, 6.23 of our revenue was Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
This year is 30.8.
Allah, you must be doing good this year.
So that's really good. So it's obvious that revenue numbers are like quite high. Like the difference there is much bigger than the jobs, basically, right? So, which is quite good. Industries, that have been doing really well. There was a big list, but I'm just gonna mention the top 3, which was quite surprising actually for me. And I'll touch on that later. But manufacturing was huge. Oil and gas was also really big. Technology was really big. And asset management as well.
That was 4.
Yeah. So
3.
Top 3 to 4. Yeah, so it's pretty good because I thought those numbers weren't. It's not. I didn't think it was going to be manufacturing. To be fair, to be at the top of the list. Seniority levels. So 31% of Abu Dhabi roles were senior.
That's a lot higher than Dubai. I'd say, to put that in perspective for the listeners, I would say in Dubai it's 10% or less for senior positions.
Yeah, that's actually quite accurate. It's 22%. 22% of roles in Dubai were senior.
Okay.
So that's
so
pretty accurate.
There's more in Abu Dhabi than more senior roles.
Yeah, definitely more senior roles. So I thought, those stats were quite interesting. It tells a good story about how, the activity level that we've had in Abu Dhabi and like how that's resulted in a lot of work for us. So it's been good.
Yeah, because I think, again, to give perspective again for listeners, so I would say, people who aren't in the region, it's like comparing London, to getting a job in London versus maybe Manchester or Birmingham, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where London and Dubai would be very, very competitive, while the sort of second cities wouldn't be as competitive from a hiring point of view. So and this is not to be bashing Dubai. Dubai is just an incredibly competitive market. But if you're trying to get into the region, for senior roles, I personally think you're going to have a better chance in Abu Dhabi because it's harder for them to get the talent. And it's quite interesting because in general, the packages will be stronger in Abu Dhabi. Bonuses, schooling, and that's because there is a lot of government-led businesses. While obviously in Dubai, it is more private companies and it's also more multinationals. And the big conversation I have with CFOs is that, or senior guys, is that the reality is if a job gets advertised in a company's intranet for a CFO position in Dubai, everybody's going to put their hand up for the most part in other parts of the world. While in Abu Dhabi, you're not going to have the same thing because there's not as many big multinationals down in Abu Dhabi.
I think there's a big gap in Abu Dhabi. I mean, that's why we're there, right? And I feel like there's a big gap in onboarding people. There's a big gap in finding the right talent and the right people to move there because let's face it, not everybody knows Abu Dhabi. People know Dubai a lot more than they know Abu Dhabi. And I feel like that's also what led to this level of engagement because we're clearly needed in Abu Dhabi to, I guess, just fill all these gaps. So there's a huge difference between the two markets, but I think Abu Dhabi is catching up. There's a lot more people now there than there was even 5 years ago. Yeah, well, look,
as I said, you're a pretty good case in point that, you're quite serious about relocating there next year. And for you, just to give listeners, why would you want to move to Abu Dhabi? So you've been in, and just Weam's been in the region for many years, so she's not really into the glitz and glamour, the nightlife.
No.
That she was maybe a few years ago, but she's matured now. But just give people a perspective. What are the differences?
I guess it all depends on what you're looking for. As I mentioned, I was born in Abu Dhabi. If Abu Dhabi remained the same as it was when I was growing up there, I probably would not go there. But I've seen in the last 12 months being there all the time what a big difference there is. There's nothing that you can get in Dubai that you can't get in Abu Dhabi. It is a bit quieter. Some people don't enjoy that, but for me, I don't mind that at all. I mean, I'm in bed by 9 or 10 p.m., so it's fine.
Weam's only 29, by the way.
29 going on 49 or something. So I guess the other part about Abu Dhabi as well is that, people make it out to be so many kilometers away. It's literally an hour down the road, right? So, if it is, you want to have a great weekend going out, going to beach clubs or whatever it is, it's just an hour away. It's not that difficult. I think, Abu Dhabi is quiet. There's a lot of opportunities there. I mean, the main reason I do want to be there is because I can see how much we're needed there. And I think if you see that there's a lot of recruitment there, it also means for the economy generally that it is doing well. There is a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities. So we go where the money is, I guess.
You're good, Look, as I said, I've noticed that my face is very red today. So for any of our people who are watching on YouTube, I don't know why it is so red, but it is red. But in Abu Dhabi, a red-faced Irishman will only get so far, because the big, for me, difference with Abu Dhabi and Dubai is that there's a lot more presence of UAE nationals in roles, in HR positions.
Even in the malls, by
Even
the way.
in the malls, yeah. You're going to see a lot more, locals, which is great. But you'll notice the big difference with Dubai and Abu Dhabi, I would say, is that in a lot of the big companies, that the locals may be seen as a majority in some companies, while in Dubai, that's very rare. So that is a big cultural difference, I would say, between the two markets, where, if you go into a job in Abu Dhabi, you can be rest assured there will be some, Emirati national in a leadership position, while in Dubai, this probably hasn't got to that level just yet. And that's not to say it's good nor bad. It's great either way. But the reality is the UAE finance or tax professionals, they are still up and coming. So, there's still a few, maybe a decade or two away from having a consistent flow of UAE nationals in the senior roles, while in Saudi, for example, now with Saudization, they can hire pretty much across all levels. Well, I don't think Dubai can do that to the same extent. But
Abu Dhabi really feels like you are in the UAE.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to put it. Like, when you're in Dubai, it could be anywhere in the world, really.
Yeah.
If you're walking around the DIFC or One Central or
Yeah.
the malls. But in Abu Dhabi, it really feels, we're in the UAE. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about that.
And, again, for the listeners, so what are the most common challenges, job seekers looking for Abu Dhabi will have compared to different markets?
So I think the biggest thing is managing their expectations with processes, because if people think that Dubai has long processes, Abu Dhabi is like twice.
But there's a lot of people saying a lot of influencers on LinkedIn saying you can get a job in 2 to 4 weeks now in UAE, I've noticed.
Yeah, 2 to 4 months, more like. But yeah, in Abu Dhabi, it's a lot longer. Processes take.
So why is it longer?
I think they're a lot pickier with the talent that they do choose as a starting point. So you'd find that in Abu Dhabi, there's probably 8 rounds of interviews rather than 2 or 3, let's say. So that's one thing. I think they're very, very picky. A lot of the projects that are on in Abu Dhabi are very dynamic, and they need, it's not a trial and error. They need the right person, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to, invest, and, they've got a lot of projects, a lot of acquisitions, etc. So it needs to be the right person. So I think they're risk averse, so they will go through long processes to make sure they got the right person. Security clearances.
Yeah, well, that's the big one. Security clearance is a big thing. And this will be for, again, job seekers outside the region. Even Dubai, that if you get a job in Dubai, there is no security clearance. For the most part. For the most part. I slipped through the system. But with Abu Dhabi, explain to the listeners why security clearance. So if I apply for a job in Ireland or wherever it is, so I get a job offer, then what happens? Or do I have to wait to get the security clearance before I get the job offer? If I finish 8 rounds of interviews and you say, hey, Connor, you're getting this job, then what happens?
Different companies do it differently. Some companies even get you to do a security clearance before they even start the whole process, or simultaneously, so that they don't waste a lot of time. Some companies will wait until, you pass final rounds, and then they'll do a security clearance. But for both scenarios, you will never get an offer unless you pass a security clearance.
And security clearance, what does that mean? Is it just filling out a form, or do I need to get something from police stations back where I'm from, or how does it work?
It depends where you are and what type of company activity it is. So for example, for defense companies, so 90% of companies in Abu Dhabi are public, so you would, or government, so you would have to do a security clearance for 9 out of 10 jobs. But for defense companies, for example, it'll be a lot more
rigorous.
It would be a lot more rigorous. You'd probably have to give security clearances, on police certificates and stuff like that from wherever you've lived in the past. Some of the forms go into details about your family, your friends, your social media, and things like that. And the reason behind security clearance, I think it's quite interesting. I think it's not only for security reasons, even though I think that it's important to have the right people and them to just have that peace of mind that, no information is leaked, etc., and for confidentiality purposes. But I also think it's a way to control the population in Abu Dhabi, because they don't want everybody to flood in. And I think this is just a tactic as well to not have, a huge population all of a sudden in Abu Dhabi.
I think, again, the biggest thing, having been here 6-7 years, that Abu Dhabi and Dubai are pretty much like separate countries to an extent. Yeah, they are different emirates, I guess, but how they're run, population, everything is a little bit different. And look, the honest reality is that Abu Dhabi, as most people know that live here, they have the money. So it's not a case they need all these new population, or they don't need a casino built to get its tourism, and because they have the money. So they're not desperate for thinking outside the box. They're quite happy with how things are done.
Yeah.
They're obviously trying to diversify as much away from oil and gas into different things. Obviously, AI, technology, there's a lot of investment in these companies. And obviously with ADGM being set up, they now have a proper sort of hub down there, which is attracting a lot of the big companies globally, and also from DIFC, etc. So, I think it's super exciting. But it just is a bit different for people compared to Dubai, because it is a bit more spread out, I would say, compared to Dubai. If there's a job in the sort of Yas Marina area, it is only 55 minutes away from Marina. While if you have a job in the Corniche, you're probably looking at an hour 20 sort of commute in and out. So I guess more for the listeners than we've talked about the processes, we've talked about the security clearances, but what other advantages do you see of working in Abu Dhabi over Dubai?
Yeah, I think definitely salaries are higher.
Yeah.
Schooling is still a thing in Abu Dhabi as well.
Mm-hmm.
Although, a point I want to mention as well, which a lot of candidates need to also consider, is that there actually isn't that many schools in Abu Dhabi as compared to Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people in my network that actually live in Dubai and go to work in Abu Dhabi, not because they don't want to move their family to Abu Dhabi, but because they can't get a seat in the school. So there's a lot less schools in Abu Dhabi. So it's something that you need to really consider and, think ahead of time if you have a family to get into these schools. But generally speaking, salaries are better. They're higher. Schooling, you still get schooling packages and things like that as well. And then for the most part, you do work with, decision makers, and you do feel like, it's a lot of government entities as opposed to Dubai, where you've got private companies. So if you're looking for multinationals to work with, not that they don't exist, but probably you'd be more suitable to work in Dubai. Whereas in Abu Dhabi, it's a lot more government.
And I think in Abu Dhabi, they want people who are committed to Abu Dhabi. They want people ideally living there. They don't really want people who are driving down the road, driving back up the road with a pot of money. We've seen that from a recruit perspective. And that's why, thankfully you seem to be quite committed to relocating there, because they see themselves as just as good as Dubai. And they want the people to be committed, because what we've seen is, definitely since I've been here, unless you're getting really, really good money, that commute from Dubai to Abu Dhabi will eventually break you down.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And this is the number one thing that I would say to people not to do. Don't commute, because I think it doesn't show commitment to your employer that it's in Abu Dhabi. The other point is it takes a toll on you. You think you can do it, but then, after a year of doing that, you just won't have a good quality of life, and you won't be able to enjoy everything that Abu Dhabi can give you as well.
And the thing is that it has lots of theme parks, lots of things for kids. It has so many beautiful golf courses, which are usually empty. So there is a lot there, so that people can get access to. But the big point, again, for listeners outside the region, is that if people think Dubai roles have no flexibility, Abu Dhabi roles have very, very little flexibility. So the whole work from home, for the most part, doesn't exist. Some companies have a little bit of a hybrid model for people who are doing the commute, which obviously makes the commute more attractive. But for the most part, it's very much, you are here, you're here to work, I want to see you. So again, just to manage people coming into the region that, especially for the government companies, they're not going to change their policies for some hotshot coming into the region.
Yeah. I think the hybrid working model, except anyways in the UAE, I don't know, it's not as common anyways. Mm-hmm. And this is I guess for the candidates that, I ask, hey, are you open to Abu Dhabi? And they say to me, yes, if it was a hybrid role. Well, that doesn't work, right? Yeah. So all my clients say, I need them in the office every single day.
Yeah.
Maybe you can, leave the office early, etc. But you need to be in the office every single day.
Yeah.
And if you're commuting, I don't know, like I wouldn't do it. Like I can't do that.
Yeah. No, at the moment, we am sort of spending a night. Wednesday night you spend down there, and you make 2 days out of it, and then drive back up. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I can't imagine doing it every single day. That would take it all out of me.
You like to vent out your anger sometimes in those drives home.
Yeah.
I start my shrink services. But yeah, I guess the skills or traits for finance, if you want to stand out in the Abu Dhabi market, of course, qualifications, are in demand. But what are you seeing when you're doing a job briefing with a hiring manager, be it a CFO or a CEO? What are the skill sets, people are looking for in general?
Just like from a job perspective, I think there's a lot more investment roles.
Yep.
Corporate development roles, M&A, just because of the activity that happens there. And, there's a lot of capital, there's a lot of mergers, there's a lot of acquisitions. So they look for those kind of skills. But the other interesting part that I found is that there's a lot of group accounting roles, group consolidation type roles as well. And I guess it's a no-brainer because there's a lot of holding companies and there's a lot of subsidiaries underneath that, where in Dubai it's not really like that.
No.
And there's a lot of HQs in Abu Dhabi. So that means they need to have that corporate group accountant that takes all of the information, consolidates it. So, we've had a couple of briefings in the last 6 months and they've all needed consolidation experience. And then the other, I guess, thing that I could think about is language. As an Arabic speaker, I think it's highly desirable. I'm not saying that it's, something that is completely, if you either got it or not. But anybody that is seriously considering Abu Dhabi for the future, for the next 5 to 10 years, being an Arabic speaker, I think really helps.
Yeah, I think definitely in Dubai, English is definitely still the business language. We see that with the majority of the nationalities in the senior positions, if they're British, Indian, Pakistani, obviously Lebanese, but English really is the key language. A lot of these companies in Dubai will have maybe regional offices, in Jordan, Lebanon, where Arabic is definitely a plus. But the reality is, you got to remember, in Abu Dhabi, if 90% of the roles are government, if they're not government, they're usually family businesses. There is going to be an Emirati guy or female at the top. And if you can build the relationships in Arabic, of course, that's going to do you better. You've seen it yourself personally. As I said, I did apologize at the start that we have an Arabic speaker in Alchemy Search in Weam. But you speak Arabic and, it's definitely helps you develop a lot of business in Abu Dhabi, which, the reality is someone like myself or other recruiters that don't speak Arabic, you're not going to get that sort of return.
It's helpful, definitely helpful, because Abu Dhabi is so, even though I lived there before, I kind of unlearned everything living in Dubai, because just the way that people deal with things in Dubai is very different. But in Abu Dhabi, I think culturally as well, there's so many different nuances that you need to know how to deal with people. And all of these things come from an Arabic tradition, and knowing certain etiquettes. Even in the UK, for example, there's certain etiquettes. I have no idea about them, but there's certain etiquettes that you need to do or you don't do.
And what would be the etiquettes then? For example, someone coming fresh off the boat in Abu Dhabi, what would you think are the Arabic sort of?
So for example, you don't sit down until someone sits. That's just something that is common, and we do it naturally, right? So you kind of give it as a respectful thing. If you're a man, you don't put out your hand to shake with an Arabic woman unless she puts her hand out to shake your hand, then it's fine. And then I guess it's just things you say, whenever you start, for example, on a Friday, we'd say Jum'ah Mubarakah, which is Blessed Friday, right? And we say that to everybody just on a Friday, right? And it's just those small things that make you a lot more in tune kind of with the traditions. And
when in doubt with anything, what do you say?
What?
Inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah, exactly. That works every single time. That works every single time.
Just when in doubt, guys, just quote that and you'll be fine.
You would be fine in Abu Dhabi. You'll be absolutely fine.
And then even from networking, obviously we harp on so much as a business, how important it is to network, because you've seen it yourself. Abu Dhabi is so small, but yet so big in a way, where you've been fortunate enough to get in with certain CFOs or CEOs or even, just senior professionals, and they've just automatically linked you to someone else. in different companies. So how have you find networking there compared to Dubai?
It's so much more powerful. Like, I feel like word of mouth, but it could go both ways, right? If word of mouth is bad, then you're done.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that also goes for like candidates. If you know, even with these security clearances, etc. By the way, there's a lot that happens in the background. So if you don't do well, or there was an issue that happens with one company, let's say, in Abu Dhabi, that will really impact you for your future, right? But on the contrary, if everything's really good, then it goes super fast. But just the same thing that we say, for example, in Dubai, it's like whenever someone's on the ground that has regional experience in the UAE, they could get a job a lot quicker. Now, in Abu Dhabi, once you get your first role in Abu Dhabi, it's like every single company in Abu Dhabi wants you because they're like, they understand.
You're here, you're committed. And the big thing I would say is that what I would say, you know, one thing coming to Dubai, you know, the vast majority of people are expats, so they're more likely to help each other out. Like if someone from Ireland comes here and reaches out, you know, I'll probably most likely get back to them and try and point them in the right direction. But what I've found in Abu Dhabi is that people are so shocked you're even paying an interest to come down and meet them. So even if you're a senior candidate and you're sort of hemming and hawing UAE, you know, come to Dubai, but also try and get down to Abu Dhabi, because you'd be surprised if you reach out to someone who's probably from the same country as you or some sort of mutual connection, they probably will meet you. Because you've seen that firsthand. We're reaching out to some very, very senior people where they've actually responded, happily met you, and you know, you went to some meetings with no intention of picking up work, and you know, thankfully you have picked up work, which that never happens in Dubai. The biggest thing I would say again, the volume of work in Abu Dhabi, that these guys have the money where they can say, let's just get 4 or 5 people in finance or tax. While in Dubai, you're doing well, sometimes just get one job out of someone.
Yeah, it's very different. Like the volume game is very different. But I think it goes to show, like, I'm not saying, you know, for example, in Abu Dhabi, you know, out of 2 meetings, there's 10 jobs. And then in Dubai, you need to go to probably a lot more to get those 10 jobs. But I don't think it's because, you know, it's just that there's more jobs there. That's it. And they need help. Whereas in Dubai, I feel like it's not so much. So, you know, I've been very lucky, you know, right place, right time, everything. But I just feel like it's because they need help.
Well, the thing as well, for job seekers, network is, I'd say, more powerful in Dubai for a job seeker, because people are going to know people and introduce you to this person. Well, the talent isn't in Abu Dhabi, because a lot more people are coming to Dubai. Unfortunately, more people are probably losing jobs in Dubai. Like I've definitely seen in the last 3 to 6 months, a lot more junior to mid-level people have unfortunately let go on their jobs. So there's a lot of good talent that's immediately available. So these guys are getting called in interviews, while for the same person who's in Dubai, someone in Abu Dhabi is going to be a lot more hesitant to hire them, because one, they're not in Abu Dhabi. They're not going to be able to afford to do that commute. It takes away from the whole point of going up and down the road. So I think, for Abu Dhabi, if you can go down there, build it up over time, you know, it's like anything. It's easier to get a job when you're in a job. I think that's definitely more of a case in Abu Dhabi. You know, and they want to see your commitment, that you're not just using their company to get into the region. But the reality is, for a lot of senior positions, they will have the golden handcuffs on you, because you know, we've spoken to some candidates in senior jobs in Abu Dhabi who say, hey, I want to look at Dubai, and it's like, well,
there's no way you're getting paid that.
If you want to take a haircut and take a shave off that salary, then of course we can look at that. But of course, not everyone wants that. Especially accountants. They like their numbers. So
and another thing I guess I've noticed as well in Abu Dhabi is the fact that and maybe this is not like the greatest thing for me as a recruiter to say, but you know, building relationships in the company that you're at is so important as well, because I've heard from so many people that once their boss moves on, they just bring them along. And there's some people that have moved like 3 jobs in the last 10 years, all following their boss, right? And I think that's a lot more prominent in Abu Dhabi, because, you know, once a new CFO is hired, you know, he's asked, who did you work with in the past, in the last whatever, that is good. And they've even moved people from across the world that way, just saying, oh, I've worked with this person back in the US or in the UK. I think they'd be really good, and they bring them out. So it's, you know, word of mouth and referencing someone in Abu Dhabi is really strong. But I feel like people don't do it often because you're next on the line. It's like if you reference someone, they better be good, you know? So yeah, it's just different. It's just a different place to be, I guess. Yeah.
And for a job seeker, like, what are the do's and what are the don'ts, you know, for someone looking for jobs in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, I think the first thing is don't commute, like we said. I think that's, if you want to be in Abu Dhabi, be in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
You know, don't be in Dubai and then commuting to Abu Dhabi. It's just not good for mental health, and it's just not good for, you know, showing loyalty, etc. Unless you have to, and I get a lot of families have to, like I said about the schooling thing, because a lot of families send their kids to school in Dubai. So I think, don't commute. I think that's the biggest thing. And also, don't compare the two markets. Like for us, we see that happening as well from a lot of candidates coming from the UK, comparing the UK market to Dubai. Now I know that Dubai and Abu Dhabi is part of the same country, but it's different. Like don't compare the salaries. Like you can't say that, you know, because I'm in Abu Dhabi and I'm making X amount, I'm expecting the same amount in Dubai, and vice versa as well. Like it's very, very different, and you get a lot more in Abu Dhabi. Life in Abu Dhabi is a lot cheaper. Rent is a lot cheaper. Other facets of life, of course, it's not. You know, it's quite similar, but you know, you don't get stuck in traffic and all that kind of things. And I think that also adds on. So it's a totally different place. That's what I would say. The other for do's, I guess, just relationships, and don't just build relationships when you need something. You know, you need to, you know, building relationships and networking.
It needs to be the right manner.
And it needs to be something you do not every single day, but all the time. Like just generally meeting people, speaking to people, not just when you're looking for a job, because that's defies the purpose of building a network you can use, I guess.
Yeah, no, I guess, you know, for you next year, like, what's your outlook? Like, how do you think Abu Dhabi is going to be in a year's time? Do you think you're going to have 40, 50%? You know, at the moment, I think pretty much all your roles, bar one or two, are Abu Dhabi at the minute.
Yeah, I think 95% of the things.
And I'd say of them, 70% are all organic that you've got on the last, 6 months or so. So
yeah. I think industry-wise, there's been a lot of investments in healthcare, agriculture, and also in healthcare, agriculture, and I think education as well. Yeah. So I think these industries will do well.
Education is probably the big thing that's missing, I guess, because as you said, if the lack of schools is holding some people relocating here, then I imagine the government are going to be pretty big on
exactly
getting those schools there.
Exactly. So that's why I was kind of surprised from the stats that we got. I need to double check them actually, whether manufacturing side was also on the food side, because
it's a lot of food.
Yeah, because there's a lot of food security things that's happening, healthcare and education. But again, I don't think that there will be as many schools as there is in Dubai, because again, it's a way to control how many people actually move to Abu Dhabi. Yeah. But there is a huge investment in those areas. I hope the revenues there keep going up.
I hope so too.
But my
IPO
plan,
readiness. That's the big sexy word in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Yeah. Everybody wants to list.
Yeah.
So that's a big skill set, I would say, that people need to, if they have that, to make sure a senior person or even mid-level, if you have any IPO readiness or been through any sort of transaction, that's going to really get you to skip the queue. Because
100%.
I think speaking to most senior guys or girls that have been looking at roles in Abu Dhabi in particular, because it is it's the buzzword at the moment for most companies to say, yeah, we want to list on the stock exchange.
Yeah, and just as an example, we got a role recently which was IPO role, and the hiring manager said, nah, you're not going to get anybody that has that experience anyway. And when I did find someone, they literally skipped the queue and everything was done very quickly. So it's a desirable skill set.
It's a big, and again, for any listeners, if you have that skill set, please reach out to us, because
and also write it on your CV.
Yeah, but again, I imagine these senior people will have this at the forefront, but that's definitely where there is a skills shortage, I would say, for a lot of our senior professionals, because then a lot of people, they're saying, well, how do I get the experience? They want to go through a process, but for us, that's definitely a game changer. If it's a traditional finance role, we've got so many candidates. However, if they want to list or all that stuff, that's something that's pretty lacking, I'd say, in the market.
So hopefully next year the plan's going to be to move to Abu Dhabi.
Salama. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna move to Abu Dhabi, hopefully, and spend more time there.
Yeah.
Because so far, I mean, all these numbers and everything has happened from spending a day and a half. So I can only imagine what will happen from spending 5 days down
that's
there.
Good, yeah.
So I'm excited for that and excited to help more companies and put Abu Dhabi on the map, I guess.
Put it on the map, girl.
Yeah.
And,
it's not all about Dubai.
No. Dubai what? And then, you know, big few weeks for you now. We have a big announcement coming in the next week or two for you personally.
Alhamdulillah.
Which I'm very excited to share with all my network. There's going to be a very nice LinkedIn photo as well. So
Alhamdulillah.
Keep your eyes peeled. So yeah, anything else you want to report, boss?
No, that's pretty much it. I think that's a good overview on everything that's happening.
Okay, let's get people jobs in Abu Dhabi.
Let's go.
And yeah, what do you make of we've worn similar outfit today.
We didn't even plan this,
Didn't even plan.
How did
Great
it
minds
happen?
think alike.
You know, connected.
So look guys, I hope you've enjoyed today with Weam, our Arabic speaker from Alchemy.
Arabic speaker. Don't forget that one.
Don't forget
speaker.
that. But no, guys, thank you very much for taking time to listen. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on our website. I'm going to get some after sun for my red face. And yeah.
If you're looking for a job in Abu Dhabi, get in touch.
Yeah, get in touch with your girl. Thank you.
Thank you.